Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Erin Richmond. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at sMedia. Some of you will already be familiar with sMedia, but for those of you who are not, we have been quietly serving dealerships across North America with digital advertising, lead generation, and analytics services for several years. Ultimately, we believe in transparent and an educational approach to our dealership relationships, and that's why I'm very excited today to be hosting Google's own Mathew Growden. Mathew is the answerer of all things automotive retail at Google Canada. He brings a wealth of knowledge about automotive, digital marketing, and Google's products and services. And today he's agreed to share that knowledge with all of us. Hello, Mathew, and welcome.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks for the warm welcome.
I'll ask you to dive in just a minute, but for those of you on the call, if you guys have questions as Mathew goes through his presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your hand. We'll do our best to make sure we answer everyone's questions as we have time. And ultimately, we want to make it a little bit interactive today, so and make sure that you guys get the most out of what we're talking about. So take it away.
Awesome. I apologize. I'm experiencing just a smidge of lag, but I don't think that'll overall impact the webinar. And I'm sure it's entirely on my side because I know it's on my side. Yes, as Erin said, my name is Mathew Growden. Everyone at work at the office calls me Growdy. That's just a thing about me. Um, I've been in the automotive team at Google Canada now for 8.5, almost 9 years. And prior to that, another 20 years in digital in a wide variety of different companies. Um, the yeah, the those 9 years at Google have been interesting in that I've now seen 10 years worth of our research, and so I've participated in 10 versions of Think Auto or Think Dealer, and so I have a pretty unique perspective and as Erin was mentioning, a wealth of knowledge both on digital and on the industry as well. This is just this is a collection. This is a fairly newly assembled presentation that uses both our latest data from our latest research from 2023, as well as some product stuff that we'll talk about. Some of which you may be familiar with, some of which you may not be familiar with. But before I get too far, that's me. That's what um, the one thing I'm almost sick of hearing about related to the automotive industry is the quote unquote all of the change, right? Is the all of the change that is going to happening in the industry. Um, and it's almost like you're sick of it, probably. You're like, I'm sick of it. I feel that too. But at the same time, I'm an optimist, and I have said many times in many different presentations that surviving change requires optimism and specifically choosing optimism. But in addition to that, I do a lot of reading on the what's going on. And so I just want to share a few things that you may not have seen that have come up in recent weeks. So, and all through the lens of change. So the first one is, I don't know if you saw this news or this article, but Lamborghini has now officially taken the last reservation. These vehicles get sold years in advance. They've taken their last order for a purely gas-powered Lamborghini. From here on out is only hybrid and electric. It's like we could put a tombstone here on the gas-powered Lamborghinis, and over time, we could do that for every OEM. So as every OEM transitions to hybrid and then only electric, I think this is just the beginning of a long series of trends. I'm sure somebody, probably Motor Trend, is going to actually trend that for us, build a lovely page of when the last gas vehicle by every OEM was sold. But it's already happening now, and it starts with Lamborghini. Also, during the Munich Auto Show, a bunch of students demonstrated this vehicle, an electric vehicle they built that got over 2,500 kilometers on a single charge. So we can say goodbye to range anxiety. Not today, but in the near future, we're probably easily going to have batteries that can span 1,000 kilometers, and that all but meets everybody's driving needs. Similarly, a different group of students from Switzerland built this prototype electric vehicle almost around the same time, came out like a week later, I believe. They did a speed test. Guinness was there to record it, 0 to 100 kilometers in less than a second, which I'm pretty sure is too fast. I'm sure that's an uncomfortable speed to be driving at, but really just an illustration of how capable these electric vehicles are and are becoming. And we're really just at the beginning of this journey, which is also staggering, that we don't have the same 100 years of development and innovation that we've seen in ICE vehicles. We're starting to see these changes in electric vehicles. And so, as far as I'm concerned, it makes for a very exciting future for the industry. But at the same time, here at home, thank you, Auto Trader, there's a lot of lateral pressure on people's willingness to buy a vehicle, new or used, and probably most notably, its price, its affordability. So, in the price index that Auto Trader published back in June, it's really pretty much every province, territory, prices up for new vehicles nearly $10,000 to $15,000. That's a pretty bitter pill to swallow. And so anyone who's has some financial constraints, anyone who's not in a dual income family, that's going to be really tough. And similarly, one of the things that is kind of interesting about the current time, I don't know if this will persist forever, I suspect it won't, is that because of the rising price of all vehicles and because of our transition to electrification and electric vehicles kind of, for the most part, the vehicles that are becoming available, they kind of show up with a slightly higher price point anyway. And then you add to that, interest rates, you add to that dealer delivery fees and other things that may add to that price. It's kind of this funny situation where luxury and volume are overlapping in what is probably a very uncomfortable way for both segments. And a clearer illustration of that, which I assembled last week by spanning and scanning a couple of local dealers here in the GTA, was for $65,000, I can either be driving this Hyundai Ioniq 6 or I can be driving this plug-in electric BMW X3. Um, and that was just not the case, a year to 5 years ago. There was much more a clearer spread, and although they volume versus luxury bumped up against each other, price wise, I think the concentric circle overlap now is much greater. What that really means is the journey is nearly identical. Like although the consumer profile might be different, although a luxury buyer makes more money, has more money, however that is possible. The steps they go through and the way they go about finding, learning about vehicles and buying a vehicle are nearly identical. Notes from 2022 updated for today. What is this? This is a story I told many times last year with the data from 2022 that is revalidated by the data in 2023. So just bear with me while we kind of step through this a little bit. First off, I kind of have used the phrase, if you didn't know this already, I've done a bad job at my job over the last 9 years. That the journey is digital, that the majority, whether you count it by time spent, sources used, interaction points, the bulk of the journey is digital. Yes, inevitably, there are things that happen in the real world. A vehicle is either picked up or delivered, and often this requires a test drive or a dealership visit as well. But so much of what we do in that exercise when buying a vehicle is digital. The journey, majority of which is digital journey. One illustration of that from this year's data is strictly the sources used, offline versus online. So now, the average consumer, having about 2 offline touch points and 6.3 or 6 or 7 online touch points, total number of touch points 8.3. So many different ways to calculate this, but rest assured the journey is digital. Also, it's messy. We will often now refer to this as the messy middle, but that there are a bunch of things that I have to do in the exercise of buying a vehicle. Some of them can be done digitally. Some of them, again, only done in person. Some I have a choice with. Either way, it means I I can enter and leave this journey at multiple points, right? I can start and end it at multiple points, and it isn't a straight line. It's not, we often talk about it as if it's a straight line, as if it's some sort of linear set of steps or a quote unquote funnel. And the truth is, it's what if there is no funnel? Whoa, I mean, okay, another topic for another conversation. But really, just to say that you get the idea, the path is more complex than ever. Um, the overall journey on average, this was kind of true when I started working in automotive. It shifts year to year for various reasons. And in fact, it did get a little longer this year, but still the majority of people, 64% coming to a decision within 2 months. Most, like half, 49% getting to a decision within a month. So in general, we could say the journey is about 2 months. Where it gets a little more complicated is again with electrification, either because of wait times or because people have questions. And so this takes a little bit longer, but let's peg it at 2 months. And last year, when I did a lot of these presentations, both in person and virtual, I asked dealers across the country, spoke to hundreds of them, um, how long are people actually spending in your dealership, right? And so, like, how many physical hours, actual hours are spent in kind of the care of the dealership? And the kind of ballpark average, so a lot of people said 3, some people said 5 or 6. You could say it's less than half a day, but today let's just coin it at 4 hours. It's less than 4 hours on average, times being spent at dealership. And so when you kind of think about that, when you kind of put that together, if I'm spending fewer than 4 hours at a dealership in a journey that's probably around 60 days with more digital sources used, um, the truth is, and I hear all the time this phrase, the cars sell themselves. The cars sell themselves, and that's just definitively not true. It's true from the myopic view of the 4 hours they might spend in dealership, but the reality is over 60 days, mostly digital sources, that digital tools and digital media allow cars to appear like they sell themselves. They don't really do that on their own. It's really all of the things we do up front, whether that's video, whether that's media, whether that's search, whether that's social, whether that's website, that actually get them to a decision, that get them in the door, that happen before they spend those 4 hours at dealership. Think auto immutable facts. I made the joke. I presented a part of this presentation to an OEM last week, and I made the joke that my insights team is not happy that I refer to them as immutable, but that was actually not true. They were actually, no, I'm comfortable with that. I like that. I'm calling these the Think Auto immutable facts because they have not changed in at least the last 5 or 6 years. These things have been constant. They are not new. This is a set of slides that is a bit of water is wet. So let's see what those things are. What are the immutable facts? The immutable facts is people visit 1 or 2 dealerships. That this year it was a little higher. Now that we feel comfortable in a post-COVID world, people are just looking for an excuse to get out of the house. Or maybe inventory issues cause people to go back to dealership more often. But it's really 1 or 2 dealerships. That's what people are doing, which in many ways means it's kind of one or done. You either get this person when they show up, or you do not. Similarly, for some obvious reasons, because this is kind of the way the math works out, they're doing 1 or 2 test drives, on average 1.7. And this is where I make the joke that there's really no such thing as 0.7 of a test drive. That it's, I don't think we're kicking them out along the way. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not there in every test drive, but it's really 1 or 2. Right? The loyalty in the industry, although we had a little bit of a peak, we had a little bit of a bump up in 2021. We probably just needed to feel comfortable mid-COVID. I don't know. But on the whole, and for a number of years, loyalty has been in a steady, slow decline. And that's true across all new car buyers. That's true when you segment and look at internal combustion engines. It is even more true and even more at risk with electric vehicles, with only 25% of folk having any loyalty at all. And what is that loyalty might be an interesting question and an even more challenging one. But really, the electric consumer, a different animal, they are less concerned about brand and more just concerned about the fact that it's electric. And so as we move to a place where we're selling more electric vehicles, that means this is kind of an all bets are off situation for which OEM commands the most market share, which dealer network commands the most market share. Another immutable fact, again, true for, again, at least 5 or 6 years, is that the number one, number two sources used in the journey are search and online video. And in fact, year over year, those numbers have gone up. So in search and online video, if we want to look at that in a different way and kind of compare it to some other digital sources, within that search bucket, 76% is Google. The remaining 6% is other things. But you kind of get the sense of where people are spending their digital time: search, video, OEM website, dealer website, comparison sites, social media. But video, not just for discovery. We often think that, I was in a meeting recently where we were talking about the fact that the problem with digital video, to a regard, to a point, is that no one knows whose responsibility it is. Everyone thinks it's somebody else's responsibility. So OEMs were hoping dealers do more of it. Dealers are expecting OEMs to do more of it. The net result is no one's doing any of it. So but it's not just for discovery, it's not just for branding. That when people watch video throughout that journey, they then do many what we might describe as key buying or lower funnel actions, like locating a dealer, looking for pricing information, researching financing or other lease offers. I don't know if you folk know this gentleman, Scott Galloway. I probably spend too much time listening to Scott Galloway. He has two notable podcasts, and is a pretty prolific book writer now as well. If you're not familiar with him, check out the Pivot podcast or the Prof G podcast. But one of the things Scott Galloway has said is that the best proxy for brand equity is the percentage of search garnered from key brand search terms. And kind of when we look at what's going on in automotive queries, year over year, we're up. Right? Again, pretty consistent every year. There are more and more searches that are done that are related to buying a vehicle. Why is that? Oh, I omitted that slide actually. Why is that? There are a series of reasons. In the original, sort of in the first few years of Google search, that was really just the internet was new. The internet was new. People joined the internet, got access to the internet, and as they join and as that internet population started to grow and mirror the physical adult population, overall searches increased. The second factor for the continuing increase in queries is mobile, right? We all got the internet in our pocket, so we could do that research at any point during the journey, wherever we were. The third was behavioral, in that we learned new ways to search. So search got better, but we also learned new ways to search. And so the clearest illustration of that is when we add other modifiers to our query, like open now or near me. So when I go to a new city and I search Mexican food near me, open now, to know if there is a decent Mexican restaurant close by that is available to fill my desire for more tacos, then it was behavioral. We learned different ways to search. And so we use those additional qualifiers and modifiers in our queries when we're searching. And then the last is just it's population growth. In the last year, we have nearly 1 million more Canadians in the country, highest population ever as of middle of this year at 40 million Canadians, heavily buoyed by a very liberal, very open immigration policy. But also, the other thing that has changed a lot since I started at Google and since I focused on automotive is how people discover that vehicle for the first time. So product discovery, also digital, now 74% doing that first product discovery online. When I started, the number one way that people found or discovered a new vehicle was they saw it. Like they saw it on the road, and that's how people discovered new vehicles. But the problem now is that there's something in between us and the road. and that's our friggin' phones. Our phone is pretty routinely between us and the road. And so now product discovery happens online. And also an interesting trend, again, not one we're surprised by, but pre-COVID, back in 2019, we were doing about 1% of sales online, so basically none. We started into COVID, and as there was some amount of adoption of digital retailing, and as electrification becomes more of a big deal, that number went up 100% to 2%, from 1% to 2%. It's a miracle of small numbers. And then as COVID progressed, and as those tools and as electrification expanded, the number grew to 6%. I fully expected between 2021 and 2022 that this number would come down. It didn't. Hit plateaued, and it stayed there at 6. And now in 2023, we're up to 10%. We can have a lot of debate about the who, how, and why of that number. I think fundamentally, when you look at the number of OEMs that have launched digital retailing platforms, as well as the number of auto groups who have adopted digital retailing on their own, and the increase of sales from startups and electric vehicle companies like Tesla and Rivian, it isn't really a surprise. We can get to 10% of vehicle sales in Canada pretty quickly. Yeah. And this number is only going to continue to grow, both because as that younger demographic becomes of prime car buying age, and as electrification becomes more a part of what we do, the expectation is more and more that this is how we at least offer a service that we offer to people in terms of car buying. Reaching customers using Google AI. So I can't get through a presentation without talking about AI anymore. We used to use different phraseology. We used to use different words. We talked a lot about a more innocuous, harmless phrase was automation. We used the word automation, and before that, we were very fond of the phrase machine learning. But machine learning is just a flavor of artificial intelligence. The truth is, Google has been at this a long time, and so we built and deployed and released into the wild our first open source technology in the space in 2015, and in 2016, Sundar came out at one of our actually maybe at multiple events, but most notably at Google I/O, our technology and cloud and software development conference, and said that Google was first and foremost an AI company. And so I know the perception to a degree in the last year is that we've been slow, or I would use the word cautious, about deploying some of our AI capabilities into the wild. That's fundamentally because we can't get it wrong. As a very large company, a publicly traded company, and a company that people trust to get things right, whatever we add to any existing product or feature of product, it needs to work. It needs to be reliable in a way that you have a high level of trust and confidence that we're not saying horrible things, or that we're not giving you bad results, or that it doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. So, but this is kind of the kind of timeline of many of the notable features that we've deployed, including more recently Bard and Lambda, and other features that are continuing to roll out across all of our products. It's fair to say, and if you've attended any of our events, and much the same way I've already said that I can't get through a presentation without discussing AI, we're putting AI into everything. There are AI features that are being built and deployed in the Google Pixel phone. There is AI features that have been built and deployed and continue to be deployed in Workspace and Gmail and Sheets and Slides. Some very exciting, very impressive stuff I use every day now. There is AI that's being built for cloud customers, and we have been deploying features in Google Ads for years to improve the quality of our products and accelerate the adoption of automation. Ultimately, when we think about it in our company, we're really just like, how do we make this useful? Like, how do we do this in a way that it makes it helpful? So I think, caution is probably still a word we're going to use. Responsible is another word that we like to use. That and good illustrations of some of the things that we've done. One is if you are a Pixel user, this is now a feature that's also rolled out in Google Photos proper, is Magic Eraser or Magic Editor. Eraser was great. I took a photo earlier this year on vacation of a waterfall in Iceland, and I just erased all the people. No one showed up that day. I don't know what happened. No one was at this famous Icelandic waterfall when I took this photo in broad daylight. But another is just this illustration that has been more recently demoed in Photos and in Pixel for picking up an element of the photo and moving it around without adjusting the photo much. I already comment on features that are being rolled out in things like Sheets. So whether that's predictive modeling, whether that's better understanding of things manually that you might be doing within spreadsheets that we then say, hey, we think you're trying to split this cell of first name, last name into 2 cells. Is that what you're doing? Just hit OK and we'll do the entire table for you. So more and more automation capabilities showing up, making it certainly my life easier. And if you're a Sheets user, your life easier too. Visualization, not available broadly yet. I have this feature because I work at Google, but basically generative image creation within slides to be able to the first one I made was like, show me a dealership on fire. What does a dealership on fire look like? And so I know it's my sense of humor. But features like this coming to bear in Sheets. Let me help you write that. Features that are in Docs and Gmail. Basically, again, these features, different features will roll out in all of our products. We have 16 products that have over 500,000 users, and we have 6 that now serve 2 billion users. So the again, features are coming if they're not already available for you, and we can't get it wrong. But it also means we have a depth and breadth of data to be able to build these language models that many of our competitors just simply do not have. And when it comes to what's going on the advertising side, what's going on the Google Ads side, this is a short history of some of the things that have been rolled out and are notable in that same timeline from kind of 2015, 2016 to today. And that includes everything from universal app campaigns to smart bidding strategies to the smart shopping campaign to the predictive elements of Google Analytics and broad match, the automation that is capable within Performance Max, which we'll talk about a little more in a few more slides, the predictive modeling that we're doing and enhanced conversions and other features that continue to get rolled out within Google Ads. It's fair to say that whether you knew it or not, if you are a practitioner and spend any time in Google Ads today, you're probably already using our AI capabilities. You just didn't know it was called that or weren't aware. But so 80% of advertisers use at least one of our AI-powered search products. Again, and that's because we have been layering this capability into everything from ad rotation to how we serve responsive search ads and how we serve other products like Performance Max and Universal App Campaigns. And really our thought or our exercise here is that these are tools to make your life better. Like these are tools to make it easier for you to accomplish your marketing goals. This does not replace what anyone is doing in Google Ads. It changes it somewhat. Hopefully, the expectation, what I say to a lot of my agency partners, I believe I had this conversation with Aaron not so long ago, is that we're just pushing the work into places that are more meaningful, like around the strategy of campaign creation and the creative that we use in campaigns, as well as the post-campaign analysis and reporting, which in both cases are things that often get taken for granted, especially when we're in that kind of high volume, very performance-focused world of a dealership. But it now enables us to let the flipping of switches be done by the machine, let that be done by AI. And let's focus on our creative and strategy for a particular campaign or set of campaigns. And let's focus on results at the end of the campaign versus worry too much about what happens in the messy middle. The first of our AI products, I've already mentioned it at least twice today, is Performance Max. Performance Max, I hope you're all already familiar with it. If you are not, talk to me, talk to Aaron. But it is the single best new product we have brought to bear in Google Ads since search. Um, it is, in many prior to the existence of Performance Max, I could not make that claim. I could not even say those words. But we have such high confidence in the performance of this product. The results, kind of on a meta level, on accounts across all industries, all Google Ads, over a number of years. Originally, what I would have told you a year or so ago is that when you add Performance Max to your existing mix of campaigns, your existing search, display, and video campaigns, you could expect to see an uplift of about 13% of conversions, and now that's wrong. Now it's 18% of conversions. And that's really, when I say conversions, again, in our context, that really means leads. Let's really just use Performance Max, get more leads. But further to that, Performance Max is, I like to use the words, eating the world. It's eating the world within Google Ads. That it started out as its own product, and then if you've been paying attention to our product development roadmap, the first product it really swallowed whole was local campaigns. So local campaigns became Performance Max with store goals. And if you happen to be selling parts online, or as a side hustle, run a t-shirt shop somewhere, on maybe on a Shopify site, Smart Shopping was replaced by Performance Max with a store feed, um, and on and on and on. And so in the last year, Performance Max has also replaced dynamic search ads. So dynamic search ads are now Performance Max with a inventory feed. And Performance Max earlier this fall, in fact, just a few short weeks ago, fully swallowed vehicle ads and became Performance Max with a vehicle ads feed. The real benefit to us doing that, outside of it just working better, like outside of the bidding mechanism just working better and being able to deliver on that kind of more conversions promise, is that it allows us to access more of our ad inventory, or we affectionately refer to this internally as, quote unquote, it's sort of a dumb name, surfaces. So, and what are those? What's that inventory? What are those surfaces? It means, in addition to where we serve the existing inventory, or where we did with vehicle ads, which was kind of the search carousel and the carousel that was in image search and in dynamic remarketing, we can now extend the campaign to show, in some cases, that same product ad, the actual inventory, and in some cases, the failover asset group in other places, like in YouTube, in the Discover feed, and in display. So although we may not show the exact vehicle, and again, the mechanism within Performance Max, the AI mechanism built behind the scenes, will decide when to show what version of what ad. What it will do is it'll collect all the data from all of those places, and it'll pull that data back. And as it's using to look at and optimize using the AI built optimization capability of Performance Max, we now have a broader pool of data, a broader segment of customers to decide with even more accuracy, with even greater confidence, when are we going to show this ad to this person, at that point in their buying journey, and what we've already identified as a messy exercise. So here's more on vehicle ads. So vehicle ads, really, it allows us to multiply the connections, right, by finding more customers across those surfaces. It allows us to multiply the conversion and the conversion value opportunity because we collect more data. And it allows us to multiply your expertise by sharing those insights within Google Ads, right? So, and then ultimately answering questions that consumers might have about your business. So first off, here's a bit of a deeper dive into all the places the product now serves. So search carousel, image search carousel, kind of missing, but whatever. Gmail, search ads. So because of the mechanism within Performance Max, we can actually reform the elements of the product and show it as a dynamic search ad. YouTube, Discover, and Display. Again, the exercise, if you're not familiar with vehicle ads, is you have to provide an inventory feed of your inventory. Sometimes that comes from a website source. Sometimes that comes from a DMS source. Sometimes, sorry, I just need a little drink of water there. Sometimes it comes from some sort of aggregator source like a HomeNet, where you may already be pushing data from your website or your DMS to then syndicate out to places like AutoTrader and Kijiji. So we can ingest data from any of those places as long as it's in the right format. We upload that into a free tool that we call Merchant Center. This will be an inventory list of every vehicle you have in stock, new and used. And then Google AI will choose the best performing assets to show in the best performing placements. What is an asset group? So again, if you're not familiar, a couple of things have happened within the guts of Google Ads. One was we created this model within Performance Max campaigns called asset groups. And that's really a combination of, text and image. It's really I like to think of it as the guts of a responsive search ad and the guts of a responsive display ad with a logo and a landing page URL. You can also, within an asset group within Performance Max, include a video, but that is optional. If you don't have a video yet, we will make one for you. We will assemble a video out of all of the other assets. So out of the logo, the imagery, and the text, we will animate a video that can be used as the video in Performance Max. And then within Google Ads, we also replaced in search campaigns the concept or the name of the area that was previously called extensions with assets. And now kind of uniformly across all campaign types, it's no longer extensions, it's assets and asset groups, and those assets live in a shared asset library. Also, along the way, and adding to the power of how a vehicle ads campaign can be improved upon, something you can do now in the Performance Max version of vehicle ads that you couldn't do before, was you can enable something we call the new customer acquisition goal. Super valuable, super important, I believe. I'm sure many of you would agree in the automotive context. What this allows you to do, you were always able to kind of get there with the way we would allow you to do it a few years ago by uploading a customer match list, and then you could include the customer match list, and then you could segment out your previous buyers. And so it was possible to do this. It was just a lot of steps. We at Google, we love complexity. And so in recent years, we've been trying to figure out how we can make the lives of people using Google Ads easier. And so one of the ways, which also coincided with some of the simplification of our audience mechanism in general, was now if you've gone through the effort of uploading a customer match list within the campaign itself, there's now just a toggle in the campaign settings, like a checkbox that says, turn on the new customer acquisition goal and only look for new customers. And then it'll allow you to pick from the uploaded customer match lists that are already in Google Ads, and your work is done. There's no include, exclude, jump around to the audience section exercise that you used to have to do. It's now straight in the Google Ads settings features directly. So super powerful. And then you get to decide campaign by campaign, is this campaign suitable for new customers or is it suitable for new and existing customers? So if you've got a new car campaign, if you've got a used car campaign, maybe those are only suitable for new, ideally new customers, and you want to exclude as much of your existing list as possible. If you've got service campaigns or other promotional offers or any kind of bounce back or remarketing in the automotive sense, not in the digital sense type campaigns, then you want to target new and existing customers. We also have this delightful mechanism. It's kind of got a fun nebulous name called signals. We often describe as signals, and this is really just additional data, additional information you can supply to a campaign to say, yeah, this is what we think is the right target audience. And so those signals are combinations of, say, that customer match list. So it would be, let's include that customer match list. We don't need to target it directly, but it sure makes a good signal as to who are the types of people who've bought from us in the past, as well as the already purpose-built audiences that are within Google Ads. So those are generally referred to as affinity audiences. So those are audiences of people who like a thing, they have an affinity for that thing, and in-market audiences, which are like, well, I'm actually in the process of buying that thing. So and in-market audiences for automotive include pretty much every brand of OEM. So we have like an in-market for Ford, an in-market for GM, et cetera, all the way down the line. If for some outlying reason we don't have your in-market audience by brand, we definitively have it by segment. So we have an in-market for pickup truck, in-market for SUV, et cetera, and a more general just in-market automotive audience that could be added to any kind of campaign. Second, how do we multiply the conversions? Well, this is really, how do we acquire more leads and how do we maximize your online sales from your existing budget? This is really done by you telling us what's important to you. And you do that by adding values to your conversions. There are a few different ways to do this. The simplest way is to just think of it like just have the conversation with your media buying friends at sMedia or your media buying team internally to say, like, is a lead more important than a phone call, or is a phone call more important than a lead? And then assign a value, right? And so that value could be, if you've done the math and you've got a delightful propensity model, which you probably don't have, but if you have done the math, then you might actually know, like, what is that worth? If you don't, then you can just kind of treat it like a scale. Well, like then on a scale of 1 to 100, we think phone calls are the most important or leads are the most important, so we're going to give that the value of 100. We think right after that, the other type of lead is the next most important, so we'll give that a value of 80 or 75. And so give them some spread so they're not all valued the same. If you don't do this, if you don't add values to your conversions, if you don't tell Google Ads bidding mechanism what are the important things, it assumes everything is worth the same. And so if you have a collection of conversions in your account that include everything from people visiting a page or swiping on an image carousel to people actually filling out a lead form or making a phone call, it means those lower value conversions are valued the same as the higher valued conversions, and the mechanism will focus on the ones that are easier to get, which will be the kind of page view, image view type of conversions. So assigning those values is more important than ever. At the OEM level, we have a lot of conversations around how to decide what those values are. And that's when we get into like a modeling conversation, when we use our AI and a lot of our analytics leads horsepower to decide what those values should be. But you don't have to necessarily go through that exercise. You can just create a scale that makes sense for your business. Also, it's the other thing here is really to understand that you want to target the right goals, right? And again, there are, depending on how your website is set up and how those conversions are configured within Google Ads, it's not uncommon for me to look at a Google Ads account and see that a dealer will have, 10, 15, 20 different conversion points. The reality is you can't optimize a single campaign cannot be all things to all people all of the time. So it is not a best practice to target every conversion in your account with a single campaign all of the time. A best practice would really be to target 1 to 3 conversions. So even though they're all there, as we've already kind of identified in the value conversation, they're not all important to you. And depending on how your campaign budgets are and depending on the available clicks and impressions within your marketing area, if you try to target them all, you're really kind of targeting nothing. Like the mechanism doesn't get enough data from the clicks and impressions and the activity within your ads to understand, how do I actually get more leads? So our guidance here is really, although the mechanism in a performance max campaign will allow you to target multiple conversions and many different types of conversions, it's much better if you kind of organize your campaigns to target very specific conversions, and try and be as fine-tuned on that conversion setup per campaign as reasonably possible. And last, it's all about providing the right inputs, right? So, which this has always been true. It's even more true with these AI-based models. The phrase that has been used in computer science for decades now is garbage in, garbage out. So, and this is why on one side, leveraging a product like Performance Max is super powerful because again, we're collecting the data from all those sources, but it's also, what are the inputs that you've given to the campaign to say, this is the audience I'm looking for. These are the kind of assets that I think that person will respond to. And how are we reviewing those things to ensure that we're only using the highest quality assets and that we're fixing anything that might be broken in the campaign or in the account. And really the mechanism to help you do that within Google Ads is called recommendations and optimization score. And although, we will often get flack, we'll get criticized for the fact that, within optimization score, you know, uh, the last 10% of optimization score is fundamentally says something like spend more money. Like if you want to get to if you want to get to 100%, spend more money, ignore that. It's really everything up until that point is just fundamentally things you can change within I'm using the word fundamentally a lot today. I should stop that. But, um, adjust or fix or improve in your existing campaigns to get even more leads, to get even more conversions. And then if you do all of that and you're now consistently at an optimization score of 80, 85, 90, 90%, which is entirely possible, then the last question is, do you want more? Do you want more? And so although the recommendation is often to collapse or close that last 10% is, yeah, spend more money, that's really a function of, do you need more? Like after you've done all of the optimizations, after you've achieved many of the goals you set out to with the campaigns, you've given it values, you're using Performance Max, you've got a vehicle ads feed, you're seeing that incremental conversion come in on the 18%, you're seeing incremental conversion value come in through the campaigns. Do you need more? And that's really, again, a conversation for you and your marketing partners. Um, the other thing, we have a delightful phrase for this. Just because, once people, I used this phrase earlier this week. I was like, once people taste blood. No, once you get a sense of how well Performance Max actually works, like once you actually see this and you're like, wow, that is in fact better. Often the next question is, well, how much Performance Max versus search should I be doing? Or are there places where search still makes more sense than Performance Max? And the answer is yes, there are still places where search makes more sense. Partly because you have more control in a search campaign than you do in a Performance Max campaign. So certain campaign types like a dealership brand campaign or anything where there's very tight copy or ad creative that needs to be deployed to, and you really want to focus on specific media, in this case, specific search type media, then yes, search makes more sense. Where that's not the case, maybe Performance Max makes more sense. Again, another way to kind of skin this cat or kind of segment that or think about it is, if I have a very clear conversion goal and I don't need those tight controls, Performance Max is the perfect tool for this. If I don't have the conversion goal, like often, which is the case in many dealers, um, you know, promo page or offers page, because there's not a lead form there. And in many cases, the service page or service offers page, which may or may not have a lead form on it. Anywhere where there isn't already a conversion tag, where there isn't already a phone number, where there isn't a conversion or a lead to actually generate, then search is going to be a better product. Like search cares less about the type of conversion. And if you're just trying to drive traffic to a page, then a search campaign is going to be a better tool than Performance Max or Performance Max with a vehicle ad feed. But we do refer to this as the power pair, search and Performance Max, the power pairing. Yes, and so within search, and this is old news now. Again, if this is new news, I've done a horrible job. I've just done a horrible job. But we did upgrade within search ads to responsive search ads because they just work better than previous formats. And then by adopting and leveraging and making sure you have a high quality responsive search ad on the ad quality scale, again, you'll just drive more conversions. Broad match, also a very important tool. So in many ways, one of my colleagues doesn't refer to this as broad match anymore. He actually thinks that's we missed a branding opportunity. We should have really rebranded broad match because frankly, broad match was kind of shitty for a really long time. And often if I saw that a practitioner was using broad match extensively in an account, I was know that that was bad money after bad. They were spending money without cause, but that is not the case anymore. Broad match was rebuilt from the ground up, and by having campaigns again, segmenting your campaigns and understanding which campaigns could make best use of broad match, you can get even more conversion opportunity out of your campaigns. And then again, the power pairing by leveraging both those very targeted exact match search campaigns where you want ultimate control and other places where you want or can have or welcome a little less control, and leveraging broad match to make sure you're gaining and kind of accessing and optimizing your broadest keyword opportunity without being out of bounds and still being within the rules of whatever dealer program guidelines the OEM has set down for you. Search, you want to fill the bottom of the funnel first with search, and then when where we want more conversions, where we want more leads, phone calls, dealership visits, that's where we just beat the shit out of Performance Max. It's not exactly PR approved, but that's really when we want more of everything, then that's where we go into Performance Max. But because change is the only constant, and at Google, we like to rebuild things a lot, change things a lot, we have a new product. We have, and again, this is in part of an exercise to simplify our overall product offering. We took two different previous campaign types, the discovery campaign and the video action campaign, and we merged them into one smarter, better campaign type. And then we added to that, just for good measure, YouTube Shorts inventory. And out of that, we created a new campaign type that we are calling demand gen or demand generation that would, in a funnel analogy, sit just above Performance Max. It isn't Performance Max. It doesn't work exactly the same way as Performance Max, and it's not as conversion focused as Performance Max. It is exactly what it says it is. It is a campaign to build awareness and increase overall demand, right? Let's generate more demand. So where do I see this product working at a dealership level? Well, if you were opening a new dealership, this is a perfect product. If you are launching or now in possession of new inventory for nameplates no one knows anything about, maybe a new EV nameplate, then this is a perfect product. Or if you've fully maximized your opportunity on search and Performance Max, and you want to know what else is there within your PMA. How do I access even more people who may not know about the vehicles and brand that I offer? Then Demand Gen is a product you might want to use. And then we kind of see, and this is where, as I was just kind of alluding to, if we only focus on those kind of very performance conversion focused tactics like search and Performance Max, we're kind of missing out on the rest of the full opportunity. And we have this debate within the video sphere, and although video is a big chunk of what we do in demand gen, the kind of top of funnel, it's really the space, the ownership of the OEM and tier two, right? Like this tier one, tier two, really owning that kind of brand favorability consideration space. But when we get down to like a tighter awareness and consideration space closer to dealership, if we want to grow our overall opportunity, the only way we can grow our actual ability to capture demand is to grow our demand. That took a second to load. Similar to Performance Max, but a slightly different cut of our products or surfaces, as I called them earlier. The demand gen product runs in YouTube Shorts, in YouTube InStream, in YouTube feeds or in feed, in the Discover feed, and in Gmail. And really, the idea here is that you combine, again, your assets, the strategy and the actual creative that you build, and you put it in a place that generates more attention, that spurs people into action, right? Because we saw that video is a great way to spur people into action. So this is a perfect way to kind of use our video capabilities and our other feed-based placements to get people to do those just up of upper funnel or lower than upper funnel and higher than bottom of funnel actions that we are looking for at dealership. No, this image doesn't want to load at all. Oh, show anyway. Parts of this slide didn't load. Okay, we're going to try that again. Do. I know exactly what product this or what slide this is. Yeah, it's got a very heavy animation in the back of it. YouTube Shorts, if you're not familiar with it, joke I like to make when I'm talking about YouTube Shorts is it's not a new type of underwear. In case we're I mean, it seems reasonable that we might make underwear for YouTube Shorts because we do make YouTube socks, tube socks, YouTube socks. So YouTube Shorts would have made sense for us. Somebody's going to make them, and they're probably going to get fired for that. But already YouTube Shorts, 50 billion views globally every day. Sorry, did I say monthly? Daily views globally. In Canada, YouTube Shorts is already twice the size of TikTok. It's just a feature within YouTube. So it is massive. I will often, when describing YouTube, describe it as bigger than you think it is. However big you think YouTube is, it's bigger. And this is another illustration of how massive our video platform actually is. I think we're going to go through this reloading section on every slide for the next few slides. Show anyway. In feed, so 83% of folk who saw an ad in their YouTube feed, said that they appreciated it because it gave them the highest quality information about the products, right? So people are expecting this, and they value it. And loading, disk loading. Am I pulling this presentation from a floppy? What's going on here? 66% of consumers in the Discover feed. Again, if you're not familiar with Discover, it shows in two places. One, it's very common for folk, half of folk in Canada that use an Android device. When you slide to the right is the Discover feed. If you don't do that, it still shows up in the Chrome browser and the Google app, on Safari, and on iOS. So 66% of consumers that discover a new product discover that product in their Google feed. I'm just going to give up and continue. And the net result is, what do people say about demand gen? Again, it is a brand new product. It is literally just rolling out in Google Ads accounts now, this month. On one side, it compares to social. So if you're a big Facebook, Instagram, TikTok user, maybe not TikTok, but if you're a big Facebook, Instagram user, this is a product that allows you to take many of those same assets, the video, the creative, the imagery that you're using in social, and scale them across a much larger platform on Google. And also, as it is intended to do, it captures audiences you didn't know you could tap into. So it taps untapped audiences. And that is it. Oh, I mean, I'm right at time, but I didn't leave a lot of time for questions.
Well, we do have one question in the chat. If anyone else is still on the call and they have other questions, feel free to pop them in there. But one of the questions we have is actually around plans to add power sports or RV inventory to VLAs. Is that coming?
Great question. Yeah, thanks, Tony. I see that question. I don't know. Like, the completely honest answer is I don't know. A lot of people have asked, and there is certainly a place for that, and certainly, in other verticals in our regular shopping ads, we don't have this same kind of restriction. Um, I was in a meeting internally earlier this week where it included many folk in other global markets around the world, and they expressed a lot of anger that they don't even have access to regular vehicle ads. So um, again, I would describe this as one of those cases where our product team is exercising a fair amount of caution. We want to make sure we got vehicle ads right. We want to make sure that we get this migration from the smart shopping based vehicle ad to the performance max vehicle ads campaign type right. And then we're going to explore other opportunities. I personally have provided the same feedback to that product team explicitly to say there is a space here for power sports, for RVs, for boats, that would be huge if we could tap into it, and it is perfect for those verticals. So the short answer is I don't know. The follow-up answer is I'm with you, and I'm asking the same question, and I'm asking it of the people who are actually building the product. So give us some time. I think the next frontier for them is really this international expansion to get vehicle ads up and running in Europe and in other parts of the world. And then once they're done with, first part was really this migration to PMAX, now international expansion, and then they'll come back to other feature requests. They kind of review that every 6 months to see what are the things they want to do, and then we see that stuff get rolled out. So that's the answer for now. What else do we got?
So follow up to that, are Google My Business product listings specifically for automotive coming to Canada anytime soon? We've been watching our American friends get them, and everyone is very impatient.
Yeah, I know, me too. So I actually emailed, this is, Aaron is aware of my both opinion and my um, response to this question, I think. The So the product team that works on that particular product, on vehicle listings, there was a moment earlier this year where they were super optimistic about bringing it to Canada, and then they didn't. And there are a bunch of reasons for that, not the least of which is we internally at Google had a massive reorg, much restructuring, 12,000 people laid off, and it happened to impact that team pretty profoundly. So they very quickly pulled back on that and said, no, we are not expanding to Canada. We are not expanding anywhere else. In the interim, the product section is still available to us. So either through the manual build or through some clever tools that some people have been able to tap into, you can still use the Google Business Profile product section and keep some of your products there, key products there if you want to. But we do not have the beautiful, elegant feed-based solution that was made available in the US. Yet, this is another place where, fundamentally, as again, was for the 8th or ninth time today, that team does not like me much because I ask almost monthly, are you coming to Canada? Are you bringing this to Canada? Are we there yet? So rest assured, know that I harass that team in particular on a regular basis. Um, they know there is interest. They are just waiting. They encountered many issues with the rollout in the US in the first couple of years. They had to pull back this year. The most recent news is there was some optimism again for 2024. I don't know how optimistic they're really being, but yeah, that's really just where we are at with vehicle ads or vehicle listings at this point. That it's US only, and for now we have products. So
All right. Next question. How does a dealership decide which platforms in the shopping journey they should spend money on? What are your recommendations? Budgets obviously aren't limitless. How should a dealership weight these platforms when making budgeting decisions? And I think they're specifically referring to how shoppers are using the various platforms available to them to do their research.
yeah, I think the there are at least two answers, possibly three answers to that question. Um, Number one, I would argue um, many of the answers to that question are resident within your Google Analytics profile. So, assuming your analytics profile is set up correctly and is recording conversions, and then at least displaying the Google Ads dollars and cents, but at least then giving you a sense of how are other platforms performing in terms of the conversions they provide on your web experience and in your possibly in your phone tracking tool. But both in analytics and any phone tracking, call tracking tool or provider you might be using, that is usually my first stop. Like that's really the what is working, like what is generating the most number of leads, the most number of quotes, the most number of phone calls. That's number one. Number two is just kind of understanding the market, right? Understanding who is your target audience and where are they. The 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 advantage you have with Google is that our products are pretty ubiquitous. That again, with the scale and size of our products, um, literally tens of millions of people using all of them in Canada. So basically every adult Canadian and many people who are not adults, whether that's search or display or YouTube or Gmail, we have the reach to basically touch everyone, and that gives us a bit of a competitive advantage over some of our other competitors, platform providers, and social competitors. um, that doesn't mean those things aren't useful as well, but that's like where B points to A, right? That's where like we have the reach, we know we can deliver regardless of the constraints of your marketing area. um, the answer then, the A plus B cycle of understanding what platforms people are using and how is it performing for us in our own analytics profile is really the secret sauce to understanding how you distribute your limited funds across different media types. The other thing I would say is that where it was very complicated with Google, even a year or 2 years ago, products like Performance Max and Demand Gen help simplify that, because now instead of having many more segmented campaigns for display, for video, for discover, if you, local campaigns, so where you know it was not uncommon for me, assuming someone was trying to optimize their opportunity on Google's platforms, to see a dealer running across 8 different campaign types, right? So and now it's really probably mostly centered on 3 or 4. In search, Performance Max campaigns, now Demand Gen campaigns, and if you're feeling really scrappy, video. But you can tap into a lot of that video inventory with Demand Gen and PMax, and that's probably where your best video dollar is spent. So um, those are my 3 answers to that question.
Awesome. I remember a conversation you and I had a couple weeks ago in which you shared that, search on Google is pretty much limitless. I can't remember the stat you shared, but the amount of new search that is happening on Google on the daily is actually incredible. So when you're talking to a dealership about where to spend their money and how to make sure that they're in front of customers when they're showing intent, I personally think search and as an extension of that PMax is so important to making sure that you're getting in front of customers as they are starting that shopping journey.
Yeah, the number is 15%. Still, it's staggering. 15% of queries every day are new. We have never seen them before, which contributes to that growth in automotive queries. And in some very practical ways in automotive, it's like new things keep happening. Like there are new brands, there are new OEMs, like there are new nameplates, there are new trim levels, there are new features, new vehicle capabilities, and so there's lots of new things to search. Um, to be completely square with everyone, there are certainly market areas in the country, like if you are a very remote, very rural market area, there will be a finite ceiling to the number of people who are searching in that market area. That's generally not the case in any of the major cities or metropoles, or your greater Vancouver or Metro Vancouver, greater Toronto areas. That is where the search is kind of limitless. But that's also, again, if I was a dealer and I grew up in a small town, and if I was a dealer who serviced that small town in, say, Owen Sound, Ontario, this is where a good understanding or a good measure of uh, how much of the existing opportunity are we capturing, how much of the opportunity are we creating with a product like Demand Gen, right? So this is how those 2 products kind of become even more important around, yes, there is demand to capture, but then how do we also create that demand? So Um, the there's the scale and depth of search and YouTube in particular are seemingly endless for a marketer in Canada. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
To add to the finite ability in remote markets, we have seen over the years where you do get to that point of diminishing returns, right? So figuring out how to achieve that or to measure that is definitely something you should be talking to your ad vendor about, because there is a point where you're saturated or you're overspending, and you really have to dial that back and understand, when you get to that point. So definitely something to work on for sure. Okay, we'll take another 3 minutes. We have two more questions in the chat. Kelly wants to know, what is Mathew's biggest key action items to build performance on PMAX campaigns?
Yeah, we use a phrase internally. We certainly tell this to our OEM partners, and that's if you're not testing, you're resting. If you're not testing, you're resting. And when it comes to PMAX, the real secret sauce is the asset groups. Is that it's not enough to just have the one asset group. Maybe that's fine in your specific vehicle feed, like your vehicle ads Performance Max campaign. But in other Performance Max campaigns, you really want to be running multiple versions of assets, so that you're really kind of feeding the machine the data and the signals that allow it to determine and decide who are the people who are going to click on your ad, right? And so we make it easy for that mechanism to work. You have to give us the creative. So the thing that's kind of super exciting is that is a place where today, maybe using external tools like generative AI tools, it is now very easy to create multiple variations of the same image. Soon, not available yet, but coming in Google Ads probably 2024, there will be a mechanism for us to do that for you. So if you're uploading a singular asset, we will show you variations of the asset that you can add to your asset group to say, well, let's actually use one with a red background, or let's use one that has a different imagery, a different, slightly different layout of the image. So I think it's testing and learning and its assets. The other side of that, as we already talked about, is layering in your own signals. So layering in your own first party data. There are so many, and it's an entire other webinar to talk about the importance and the value of first party data and how that's important today. That's going to be even more important come 2024, when cookies finally go away. So the real 1-2 punch on PMAX is assets and signals. So
Okay, in a related question, and the last one in the chat, will we ever be able to see which platform on PMAX is performing best?
everyone asks. We provide this feedback back to product all the time. They have created some newer reporting. They have created some insights. They have provided some indication of the keywords and query types that are working better in the campaign. Is it what people want to see? Is it the depth of reporting that the average Erin's already rolling her eyes? Probably not. Probably not. So it's a well-known request. It's a well-known request. The other thing to consider, and although I think it would be great too, like on a very personal level, like, wouldn't it be nice if, the other thing to consider though, is like the real power of these new products. Like, so whether that's, universal app campaigns 8 years ago, or the power of PMAX today and the power of demand gen today and in the future, is that they're collecting data across all of the platforms. And so, like, if you were running a PMAX campaign and you knew that 90% of the clicks came from search, what would you do with that knowledge? Would you then create only a search campaign that focused on the same goal with similar creative? And if you did that, would it work as well? And the answer is probably not, because it doesn't have all of the other data and signals that that product type garners by including placements, even if it's at a lesser degree in, YouTube and in display and in Discover and in Gmail. So there's a real question, and I think that's why our product team has been reluctant to give that feature out to people, because it's kind of like how you, if you're already getting all of the leads that you can across all of Google's platforms at a reasonable cost per lead and an improved conversion rate, well, what is better? Like what's better than that? And I think in the eyes of our product people, and to a degree also I agree with this, the answer is not much. There isn't much better than that. It's so, will more reporting come? Yes. Will it be everything everyone wants to see? Probably not. In the end, does it matter? Maybe not either. Maybe not either.
Awesome. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you're going to trust in the power of AI, then you need to trust in the power of AI.
Some people within our organization, I don't hear this so much in Canada, but one of my colleagues in the US auto team uses a phrase, let go and let Google.
That's a great end note. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time today, Matthew. Thanks all the attendees for listening in. If you guys have any questions on PMAX or demand gen or search, your customer success or our sales team or myself or Matthew are happy to answer. His email is on the slide deck. We'll be sending out a recording of this video once we've rendered it. So thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, everyone.